What is up, Robot Wars, BattleBots, and BuggleBots fans? Oh, I am Otaku Nate here, and unfortunately, Brandon, is not available. Right now, anyway. He is currently having issues with his Skype, but he should be on any second now. In the meantime, you will have to deal with me and my boring voice. I am Otaku Nate, and I am back home from Colossal Con East. It was a fun weekend. Good time was had by all. I actually got recognized by a viewer of ours, so big shout out to Justin Young if you're hearing this. So, as usual, we've got guests for this episode, the Win It and You're In It episode, and making his return for the second time this season, it's Mr. Will Bales from Hypershock.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
And also making his debut on the Hardcore Podcast, one of the two masterminds behind Quantum and a man involved in the Robot Wars revival a few years back, one of the two Cooper brothers. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Grant Cooper.
Hey everyone, good to be on.
So as usual, we start off with a little small talk. Will, I think you've pretty much talked about Hypershock a bit, so Grant, tell us a little bit about Quantum, because we know that you made your big debut a few years back with Spectre at King of Bots. So, are we sure that Quantum isn't just a reskin of Spectre?
So, this year particularly, there are a few key differences between the two, but most importantly, we filmed BattleBots over a 2-3 week period. Then we had to fly back, leave Quantum in the crate to get sent back to the UK, finish off building the new Spectre, and then fly that out in suitcases to King of Bots. So there physically wasn't time to just do a reskin, even if we wanted to. So yeah, they're two completely separate machines. We actually built 3 chassis in the lead up, so that we kept some of the main components the same, so the bulkheads and the drive bulkheads the same, so that we could take some kind of familiar spares to King of Bots and to BattleBots. We took those in suitcases, but the actual robots themselves are completely separate, bound up to different transmitters, and can fight each other.
Quite interesting. So, obviously, you're bringing a Crusher to BattleBots. Crushers, as we know, not really big in the current meta of BattleBots. So what was your strategy when going into BattleBots this year, seeing just how many deadly spinners you guys had to face?
Well, I think that the spinners, we've never really been that concerned about vertical spinners on a whole. Obviously, this season has kind of shown differently on there. We got trounced, but yeah, we kind of came in. We've had some success with King of Bots with those, and it was more sort of the big hitting kind of horizontal spinners that we were kind of a bit worried about. We've never really fought those before, and obviously the King of Bots is one thing. There's a lot of people from a lot of different countries, a lot of people playing with new ideas over there. Whereas BattleBots is a more serious competition, and so the mindset of everyone's different, and the arena's different. There's a very different kind of way of fighting. And yeah, we saw obviously Photon Storm fought a couple of seasons back and was very close to beating Minotaur, and we figured that we think with a good Crusher, we could possibly go all the way. So we thought we'd give it a shot.
Not a bad idea. Oh, hang on. We got him, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Brandon Nichols.
I'm here! I'm alive! My computer turned heel on me.
Well, we've started recording, ladies and gentlemen, and I was just shooting the breeze with Grant about Quantum. And of course, there is one major question I have to ask you. Your fight with Lockjaw. Were you a victim of Floorgate?
Yes. You can see, if you watch the very first section of the fight, there's actually, and a lot of people will have had this problem. Depending on which square you start from, one of them has a big lip in the center, If you go straight forward, you're going to hit it. The other side, you can drive straight over it. And in that particular fight, we were on the side we didn't want to be on. So tactics was we had to kind of drive around the side of that, which I think was two or three floor panels wide. And unfortunately, when I'm fighting, I don't even look at my own machine. I'm looking at the opponent the whole time. And I just didn't go quite wide enough. So we hit that floor. The robot jumped up and turned about 45 degrees and tweaked the front end, which wasn't ideal. But the issue we had the whole way through with the front end we designed is we were kind of naive in the fact that we've proven that at King of Bots it's worked really well on their sort of half-inch steel floor, that we didn't even consider that the BattleBots floor was different. And it's something that came up when we were fighting with Beta, realizing that there are sort of warps and things in the floor. But in the lead up to it, it was an oversight by us. So we went with the wide front end, and it just didn't work for us at the time. So that's something we need to go back to the drawing board on.
Yeah, Greg Munson has always stated that he hates wedges and wedged flippers, and that's why I think he designed this new arena to kind of make it a little more tricky for the wedge machines. Like, you got all the little spikes coming up out of the floor. You got I guess they don't have the Hellraisers anymore, so I guess that's where the floor panels. Is that where the Hellraisers used to be?
Yeah, I think will probably agree on this, but there's
the
one thing you don't want is just flat straight up wedges that don't use their active weapons. And I think there's something very different between that and machines like Sawblaze, Beta, and Quantum, and even like Will's machine. You have to have a wedge if you want to even stand a chance of competing in this kind of competition. And regardless of how much people think they're boring to watch, as long as you make a good effort to use your active weapon and it's not just a total weapon, you need. There's no point turning up to BattleBots without one. I
totally agree with you. The only robot I can think of that didn't actively use a wedge was Yeti, and that's just because they gave up on the forks.
The forks were messed up after that Bite Force match, so I can understand why they got rid of them. But so the floor has been a nasty boy this season. So
I just want to add one thing. It's ironic that Greg Munson hates wedges and wedge flippers, considering that he built La Machine.
He knows the monster he created.
Yeah.
The thing is, you always need to counter. If you have a load of wedges, you need to stop it, or reduce it. The same thing if you have too many vertical spinners, you need to adapt the rules of the arena so that you've got a constant evolution of machines. And I think at the moment there is it's kind of got to the point where the thin kind of forks and a vertical spinner is kind of the way you need to go with BattleBots at the moment, with a floor that's a bit wavy. So I'm hoping that they are able to look at changing the floor, and at least that will change the meta of sort of what is the winning kind of, not the winning kind of machine, but what you have the best chance of winning with. Hopefully that'll change things up.
Yeah. So let's make, since now Quantum, it is named after Quantum of Solace, yes? James Bond movie?
To some degree. So we didn't name our machine specifically after Bond movies. It kind of just worked with what we wanted. So Spectre was originally called Ghost. However, in China, anything to do with Halloween, ghosts, and the afterlife and all that kind of thing, you can't really put on TV. So we ended up calling it Spectre, which obviously means ghost. Kind of suited what we were doing. So when we started designing Quantum, obviously we switched up the way we were designing to using the generative design, and the whole point of it was we wanted two things. One of it was we were sort of hoping to make like a quantum leap in the design and the way we design and all the rest of it. And the second one was ultimately one of the big goals for us is to try and get that machine as a toy. It would be awesome to see that on shelves in stores. looking at the big toy,
I'd love to see a Hexbug's Quantum to.
Oh, me too. That thing is just toyetic as all hell.
You kind of need something to pop out, and we thought Spectre's got its own kind of style with the grey, and then sort of bare metal, and Beta was sort of the bare raw material colours as well. But looking at the toy, although it's a really cool toy, it kind of doesn't pop out on the shelf. It doesn't like grab your attention. So looking through colours, that kind of blue really kind of stood out, and looking for names, kind of Quantum with the blue, the way we designed all kind of fitted together. Obviously fitted with the Bund kind of theme we were going with as well. So yeah, it just kind of worked.
Now, Crushers are not an easy type of design to compete with in combat. The last really successful Crusher bot around was, of course, Razor, in terms of vertical Crushers. How does Quantum... what makes Quantum stand out from all the other Crushers? What makes it so good and so successful?
I think it depends on how you design. Brute force and power isn't necessarily the thing that makes Quantum and Spectre so good at what they do. It's a mix of everything, and you can see that we've had to make a lot of compromises to armor to try and get the performance that we get. I think any machine, you have to be able to win even if you lose your weapon, and so one of the areas we concentrated a lot on is drive. Very much like Will, we try and push the boundaries of kind of how quick you can drive, but we tapered it down on Quantum, so Spectre actually drives a little quicker than Quantum does. But actually I found we started to have better control as we slowed it down. But yeah, I think the number one really is a really good controllable drive, which is why we've stuck to a full brushed drive system rather than going to brushless. 'Cause at the moment, I'm not quite confident that we can get the level of control we need to sort of get the grabs and get the performance we need. So the drive is the number one thing for us.
Mm. I will say I've definitely been a big fan of Quantum and Spectre, both in BattleBots and King of Bots, and I'm really happy that you guys made the top 16, and I look forward to seeing how much further you can go with this beast.
Thank you very much.
So tonight we're going to be talking about episode 14 of BattleBots 2019, and I thought this was going to be the start of the championship, but as it turns out, the fighting committee decided to hold another little episode featuring the bots fighting for the lower 7 seeds in the or 8 seeds in the top 16, because they already picked out the top 8, just trying to figure out the bottom 8. And so cripes, I wish we had the list of the top 8 right here. I only have the battle fight card up, but in alphabetical,
go to Reddit and find it.
Reddit. You know what it's like going into Reddit? It's a nightmare. It's a breaker box. But
regardless, I just also before we go any further, is your Skype recorder recording?
Yes, it is.
Okay, then I'm turning mine off because I don't
keep it on just in case.
Because
in case something goes wrong.
Okay, fine.
I don't want any issues. Like the issues I had trying to get Skype to go on because my computer decided to update. How dare you update on me?
All right, but yeah, let's get back.
Yeah, so episode 14. This episode, I'm gonna say this right now. This is another 10 for me. Just we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 matches, which I believe is the most since that 2-hour special back in season 2, I think it was. Yeah, so lots of matches, lots of fights, and this was this very evil episode as well, because there are just so many bots in this episode that I wanted to see in the top 16. I wanted to see both Huge and Hypershock in the top 16. I wanted to see both Minotaur and Cobalt in the top 16. But no, the BattleBots gods say, "Oh, there can only be one." So yeah, but we'll start talking about each of these matches, going through them, what we liked, didn't like, just make fun of everybody. And we'll start off with the first match of the night, Valkyrie versus Quantum. Grant, can you tell us the tooth, the whole tooth, and nothing but the tooth about this match?
Okay, so this was one that we were kind of looking forward to. So, like I said from the start, one of the reasons we really wanted to come to BattleBots was to take on some of the top end kind of horizontal bar spinners. We've never fought one before, so we kind of really didn't know what to expect going in. We've got, as a lot of people saw, we've got two types of front end. We've got the one that we lost to Lockjaw and Death Roll with, which has got the low scraping front end. But we tried our spinner wedge on against Duck to try and get the maneuverability we needed. So we knew we could go into this fight with our spinner wedge, and we had full control. So we knew we were onto a fairly good one at the start. We just didn't really know how well we were going to take the impacts. But yeah, I was looking forward to this because Valkyrie are the only other team really who share a couple of sponsors with us, which is Autodesk, Fusion 360, and also Mark Forge. So they have some generative designed 3D printed parts inside their machine, kind of in a similar thing to ours. So it was kind of a battle of who's used the technology the best. So yeah, it was an exciting one for us to go into.
Yeah, I think Valkyrie is a very interesting design, and when it got flipped upside down, I thought they might have a bit of an advantage over you because with that blade, they can just hit the jaw and maybe take it off. But
well, that was our big concern really, and the jaw on Quantum is very strong. We know we can take a lot of hits with it, but it's the bulkheads we were concerned with. We thought if it went upside down, we would have exactly the same problem we did with Tombstone against Beta. It'd literally just go over the armor and chop everything above it off. So that was kind of what we were expecting to happen.
And then you lost the tooth, but as the past has shown, Quantum and Spectre, tooth or no tooth, you can still get a good grip on bots with that thing.
Yeah, well, the key is the power people seem to think when you lose a tooth, if you don't pierce through them, it's not effective, but you've still got like 30,000 pound of force squashing that machine down, and ultimately that's what killed them, killed their weapon motor. Was we squashed it and broke all their mounts on the LEM and squashed it flatter. So it's that force that won us the match.
Yeah, it was a good opening match, I thought. Will, what'd you think of it?
I thought it was a great one. You already touched on it with Valkyrie's upside down, scariness, but I think we saw in our match against them that they were having a real problem the whole event while driving upside down. They tried putting weird, goopy stuff on the tires. They made a different skid for when they're upside down. But I think just the way that the center of gravity is, it wasn't conducive to really controlled upside down driving. So once they were flipped over, Quantum, toothless, still had an easy time controlling the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean the out driving, when particularly like you say when they're upside down, wasn't the difficult thing. The bit for me that was concerning, there's a really nice clip where Valkyrie's kind of stood upright with the blade vertical.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
that's where,
yeah, the bots that live in the blue world.
Exactly.
That's the runaway moment.
Yeah, well, you can see we get so close. We're literally like a matter of inches of the head away from that bar. You've just got to take a kind of a guess as to do you ram it or don't you, and we just held off for a split second and it paid to our favour. But if that ricocheted off something and hit the side or the top of our machine, we would have been dead in one hit. So that's where you kind of really need to just step back during a fight and just see how it plays out.
Yeah, Nate, what'd you think of this match?
It was a good opener. Great driving on display by Grant and James Cooper. Proof that Quantum, and sadly Quantum's the only Brit bot in the top 16. Because man, the Brits really got the short stick this season.
Yeah,
maybe it's a bit of turnabout's fair play, since you know how a lot of the American teams went over to Robot Wars and lost all the time. And then,
but I thought we were over that with the Classic series.
I don't know. When BuggleBots Season 2?
Stop it. Will you stop?
No, I will not stop until I get Season 2. Yeah, so...
But no, seriously, I enjoyed. This was a great match. And sadly, though, as much as I would have loved to have seen this go the distance, Valkyrie really unfortunately got screwed over.
Yeah, it's a shame. They're a great team. Leanne's awesome. Fred's awesome. Alex is awesome. They're an awesome team.
I do want to say that that this fight actually got spoiled for me at Norwalk, but not in a way you'd think.
Why did who somebody tell you the results?
No, it was because I saw Alex at Norwalk Havoc, and he had a 3D printed version of Quantum's head, and he told me he's building a Beetleweight Quantum.
Oh, yes. What do you think about that, Grant? Somebody making a little Beetleweight Quantum Junior.
Yeah, that's one thing we've been meaning to do for ages, but as always with time, you just never get around to it. So it's really cool seeing other people kind of liking your machine enough to actually put some effort and money into building something.
It actually has a metal tooth, and I've actually touched it. It's sharper than you'd think.
Oh,
good stuff.
Well, there you go. So, yeah, Quantum gets the win and becomes one of only 2 non-spinners in the top 16.
That's disappointing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, unless you count Sawblaze, because that's more of a Sawbot.
It spins, though.
Unless it isn't a Sawbot.
Yeah, it's a spinner.
It spins.
Well, it does have that hammer spinner, but JMO doesn't really like using it.
Yeah. So Quantum gets the win, and now we move on to the Battle of Animal Abuse. Yeti versus Duck.
AKA 2 robots that really love driving over things.
Yeah. Duck, they got started off very strong. They managed to get a flip-in on the Yeti.
Yeah.
Which
I honestly thought that after that they would be in control of this fight, but I feel that this fight really showed sort of the big problem that Duck has had with their weapon, in that they don't really seem to have much control with it. Like every time they try to lift something, they just end up doing wheelies.
Yeah, was Gabe Stroud controlling it, or was it Hal?
Yeah, Gabe's on the weapon. Hal's on the ground.
Oh, well, there's your problem.
Yeah, come on, Gabe. It's because it's like sometimes he'd have a chance to use the lifter and flip up, but it'd end up going down and flipping Duck over, and I think what Hal needs to do is he needs to be able to control both the drive and the weapon to one controller, so that he has full control of his bot. Since there doesn't seem to be Duck just seems to be all over the place when it comes to the control here, and it's kind of a shame.
Yeah, I think one of the big things with any machine is, especially a robot with a weapon that quick, is you just need time and practice on it. 2 operators, I've always believed, is better than 1, so you can concentrate solely on driving if you're really adamant to win. But yeah, I think they just needed some time and practice, kind of out of the arena somewhere, or in the test box, just actually coordinating and working kind of what their tactics are, and kind of working as a team together. But I just don't think they had that time. So and it kind of showed.
Come on, Gabe, you've been hanging with John Reed all this time. You should know to wait for a good flip. Will, what'd you think of this match?
I mean, there's not much to say. Duck needs to use their weapon as a weapon more. That's my only gripe with Duck. Otherwise, like, it's well built. It's a beautiful thing. Hal's super nice. Gabe's super nice. Driving aside, like, you actually need to use your weapon.
Yeah, I think a lot of it was the kind of erraticness of it. Is, like Gabe said a few times, is he was using it as more of an axe than he was a flipper. Because I think I don't think they actually got many proper sort of flips on people without Duck kind of tipping forward. So I think Gabe kind of just reverted to trying to whack people with it in any direction he could.
Now, how do you rate the Yeti as a robot? Because it's kind of got like a Hypershock look to it. It's got both the lifter and the drum setup.
Yeah,
How
I'd
about
say
you, Will?
They sort of have they did what we did with our lifter, except like 2 matches too late. We gave up on it at the end of last season, and Greg's like, well, I just have to keep it. And I talked to him in the off season, and he felt like the only thing that made it Yeti was that he had the moving forks, and it didn't go well for him against Bite Force, and he just kind of said, screw it, I'm going back to
Strangely
forks.
enough, I feel that those forks were what I felt kept the fight competitive against Bite Force, but that's just me.
Yeah.
I think he felt that they got in the way all the time. And back to James's point about multiple drivers being a superior tactic, I agree with that. When things are going wrong, especially, it sometimes is really hard to control both maneuvering the robot and a spinning weapon and a tilting, moving pokey stick. So I think it was just more than he could handle. That said, seems like Yeti is hitting hard again, which is great. I like it.
Yeah.
Good news for us, bad news for the rest of the field.
The Yeti is not extinct yet. Yeti ends up getting the win, and Duck. It's a shame Hal Rucker went out, because I know every year he comes, he tries to make his robot better, and he wants to make the top 16. And
Hal looked utterly dejected when he heard the result.
yeah, it's a shame, but hopefully he comes back if there is a season 5, and I hope he improves the weapon a bit. Maybe give Duck some cheekbones, maybe some little additional beaks coming out the sides. Make it a 3-headed duck flamingo. Yeah. So the Yeti goes through to the top 16, and now we move on to Lockjaw versus Scorpios. Now, this is a match that we have seen before, but at the Vegas event, which took place
And that was
after
after the fact.
BattleBots film. So would this be technically considered a pre-match?
I guess you could call it that, yeah.
Yeah, so Lockjaw versus Scorpios, big spinners and big exposed tires, and what it came down to was Lockjaw managed to hit Scorpios' wheel and take the rubber off of it. Scorpios tried to keep going, but alas, it fell foul to my least favorite rule in the entire robot combat world, the immobilization via crab walking rule. I hated it when it was in Robot Wars, and now BattleBots is using it, and it makes me angry. And I am a man who gets angry at a lot of simple things, but yeah. If you're crab walking, but you're still able to get out of your circumference, you should still be classified as mobile. But apparently the ref said no, and they just counted Scorpios out anyway.
Bother that ref.
Severe refgate. I don't know if what's worse, where refgate's worse, here or in the NFL.
No, forget ref ball. This is ref bots.
This is ref bots. Yeah, Will, what'd you think of this match?
So the match, as far as the match goes, I think Scorpios has no reason to be jittery or quick. Just be patient and drive more methodically, especially as a control robot with a saw-like thing. Why would you drive around sporadically and twitching back and forth? It's just going to be a recipe for wheel death. But as far as the crab walking thing goes, I agree with you, but there's something else to that. The second half of our Bite Force fight, we had, after they knocked off one of the wheels, we had one wheel drive.
Wow.
But no one else noticed that, because just the way the robot works, it works better when the drivetrain's impaired. So I think that's part of robot design, that you need to make sure that your robot works even when you get damage. And if you're just putting around and slowly but not really going anywhere, is that really controlled? If you can't force a direction and move towards your opponent, I don't think that counts as controlled movement.
Mm.
That's a very good point, Will.
Yeah, and this is especially considering there's no tap outs in BattleBots, and since Lockjaw had pretty much stopped attacking Scorpios, I think that's when they decided, yeah, let's just end the match. Grant, what'd you think of the match?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the big thing is particularly watching the Scorpios comes back to like so many robots are designing their machines to drive so quick and erratically that you just kind of can't control them. And I think, kind of like Will says, you almost need to just slow right down sometimes and just do things a bit more methodically. And I think that's kind of what costs a lot of people these kind of fights. But yeah, I mean, for me, it was a good fight. Lockjaw's been on form fairly well throughout the competition, other than what the weapon motor's dying.
Again.
But yeah, I mean, it was the outcome I expected from the start. Donald's a really good driver, and with those two long fork things on the front, there's not a lot of machines that can beat it, I don't think. So yeah, it's certainly, I think, the right outcome on that.
There's no animosity between you and Donald for because he hurt your bot, did he?
No, you know what? At the time, we were a bit frustrated with it. We weren't best pleased because you think, you know what, it wasn't needed. But when we went back, looked at the machine, and realised that there was no damage other than a side panel, you just thought, you know what? Ultimately, we're creating a TV show here, and for viewers to keep coming back and watching occasionally, you need to do something you shouldn't, and I think that was one of those things. As long as it doesn't happen all the
You
time,
don't say.
or it doesn't wrap people up. Well, what can you do?
I'd hate to ruin such a beautiful machine, but I must.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's. I think especially when he didn't have a particularly good start to the season, and you saw a lot of teams who didn't do so well earlier on in their fights kind of come out and just try and prove a point to kind of make their mark and try and make sure that they get through to the next round. Because obviously, as you know, it's not all about did you just win or lose your fight. It's about how competitive are you in the general scheme of things. Are you showing your full potential and everything else? And Lockjaw didn't up until that point. So I think that was probably Donald just kind of trying to prove his point and show he can kind of do the business, really.
Mm. Yeah, so Lockjaw ends up getting the win and goes through to the top 16. And now, Will, we must move on to Hypershock versus Huge. And this match made me sad because, number one, it's between two bots I wanted to see in the top 16. I love both these machines, and it's such a shame to see one of them go out. And number two, this match had a heel turn by the Rake. Oh dear.
You know, we all said this season, it's sad that we're not going to see the Rake anymore because there really aren't that many robots with drones this season. And in the fight where we finally get the Rake, and it's a happy day for us all. And it ultimately is what causes your weapon to fail. So I hate to say it, but congratulations, you played yourself.
Will, talk us through this match, Will.
I will say, though, for the first part, those rakes really did help you, but ultimately they were your downfall.
Yeah, so last season we were almost going to fight Huge in one of the exhibition matches while the top 16 was going. And just because Huge was, by that point, twice bisected by Bite Force and Ice Wave, they were kind of like, no, we're good. So we wanted to fight them with two chainsaws on the arms. And we thought that would be hilarious. And we did testing out in the welding area. We went and bought chainsaws right when we found out we were going to fight them. But it didn't happen. So we spent a year thinking about, oh man, wouldn't that have been funny? And then Saturday morning, we're the first fight of the last session of the round robin, fight card format, and so we fight Breaker Box first fight like noon, and we have 4 hours to get the robot, fixed again and ready to roll, and then we're sitting there, and around 4:30 they finally come over and get all the builders together and say, hey. So long story short, there's too many good robots, so we're actually going to have playoffs, and here's who you get to fight. Huge, like shit. So we didn't have enough time. Of course, they wanted us to be like the second or third fight, so we didn't have time to install chainsaws on Hypershock, and so we're like, okay, well, what can we do? And we thought about just going without anything, and I think in hindsight, we all know that probably would have gone just fine.
I don't know. I think he could have just done good with the rake.
Yeah, but we're like, we could put 2 rakes on it. We had talked about, bringing back rakes and yada yada yada. So we're like, you know what, screw it, let's do it. So I sent my parents out, and you saw like a little clip of them at the Home Depot. They sent some producer with like a phone to film them around the Home Depot, and we threw it together super quick. And of course, they wanted us lined up ASAP, and we're like, well, you literally just told us 5 minutes ago who we were fighting. Oh, but you were the first fight of the day, yada yada yada. So we somehow kludged it together with Home Depot rakes and Home Depot aluminum, which is not the highest quality material.
Home Cheapo, I like to call them.
Yeah, Home Cheapo indeed. So the fight started off pretty good, and you can see especially in the slow-mo highlights post-fight, you can see that one of the rakes gets kind of bent around their weapon and stops it completely. And
that was crazy.
Yeah.
Pushed them right into the screws, and that was it. And for a second, we were just kind of sitting there, and I think they edited that, pause out. But we were looking at it, and like, that's it. Like, they're stuck. But in our previous fight, hours before, Jim Spentowski, being the good sportsman he is, unstuck us like twice from being stuck with our invertible horns in the saw blades, the kill saws. So we felt a certain responsibility to him and good sportsmanship to not win just because someone was stuck. And so we just kept going.
Yeah, it should. That's the way it should be in my eyes. I'm a big advocate for sportsmanship.
Right, and the same thing happened pretty much every season. There's something like this. So Bite Force season 1, they were kind of stuck upside down, and we just kept pushing them because winning a fight because someone's stuck is lame. Season 2, Poison Arrow, they were stuck on the wall, but that was lame, and it was within the first like 30 seconds. So I guess we just have a habit of continuing fights for the sake of entertainment.
You're too much of a nice guy, Will.
Yeah, sometimes it works out, and sometimes it doesn't. The good news is we were doing really well and pushing them around a lot, but they hit one of the rakes into the weapon, and so that jammed the weapon, and then we're just pushing them around, and then one of the drive sides died, and then they hit a wheel off, and then the other side died, and that was it.
It's a shame when it happens, but I will say it was definitely a fun match, and thank you so much for bringing the rakes back, even if they kind of betrayed you. But Huge does get the win, and
it was a fun fight, though. I gotta say,
it was a fun fight that could have easily gone either way, and that's what I like.
And as long as I'm laughing maniacally at the end, then I'm having a good time.
Yeah. You took it as you were a real good sport there, Will.
Yeah, Grant, what do you think of Hypershock and the evil rakes?
Going into this fight, it's like we expected Huge to win, unfortunately, because you just think, like, what can you do against this? Like, if we fought Huge with Quantum, like, it would just eat us. Without kind of making a full thing to go over the top, purely for them, which is one thing I really hate, is turning up to an event, measuring up someone's robot and building something to counter it. I think you should always, other than rakes and stuff like that, there's kind of have a bit of comedy value. I don't think you should ever
build anything on site specifically for another machine. And so it's like, with Huge, like you just can't touch it. We could never grab it. We might get lucky to grab a wheel. And I think Hypershock, the only way they could have done it is just by making sure their weapon just stays working the full time and just constantly attacking those wheels and hope that something fails on Huge. But I mean, like, it's such a crazy machine that like, you can't really plan for it. So yeah, unfortunately, it's one machine we really wouldn't like to fight, and I think Will got unlucky getting drawn it at this stage. There's a lot of other machines in this bracket that I think Hypershock could have beaten.
Yeah, we had Jonathan Schultz on in a previous episode, and we were asking if Razor were to fight Huge, who do you think would have been able to win?
I don't think Razor could open high enough.
No.
Well, he couldn't open high enough, so like Huge would just same with us. Razor doesn't have.
I don't really think it would make a dent in those even with those spoked wheels. I don't think Razor would have a chance.
No.
James and I were discussing this. Even if we bit through one of the wheels, all he needs to do is just spin round sideways, and those wheels are so flexible they could still hit us with the bar. So it's a very concerning machine to fight, that one for us. But yeah, unfortunately, we saw all the work that went into Hypershock during the event, and it's a really nicely built machine. Some load of work and effort's gone into it, and it's kind of a shame to see it go out.
Yeah, I cried when at the end of this match, just seeing Hypershock doing so well this season, and to just go out like that, it was sad.
Yeah, but like you just look down the fight card for episode 14, and you just look at the machines that just kind of like pop out at you, and Hypershock is always one of those machines. It'd look awesome on a shelf.
So
thanks, Dad.
Yeah. So if there is a season 5 of Hypershock, will you be entering, and will you be making any changes to Hypershock?
So this is a topic that we debate a lot on the team, and I'm sure, James, you'll have a particular opinion on this. We think there are too many four-wheel drive vertical spinners.
Yeah.
We think there are too many vertical spinners. And you look at the last season, the top 3 of the 4 were vertical spinners. Every season it's just getting more and more prominent, and it's hard to yell at people and condemn vertical spinners from our yellow high horse. So we like Hypershock. We like the robot. We think it's relatively unique, considering that witch doctors like the same thing, and a whole bunch of other robots.
Yeah.
Lockjaw, Yeti, go down the list. But there's also a certain sense of responsibility that, in an effort to keep the show interesting and keep ourselves interested, that maybe there's something else that we could do. Maybe it's a modular thing, although I don't think that modules of weapons are worth the time. It always sounds like a compromise from one way or the other. But at the same time, I think we've got a really good brand going, and if you want a toy deal to go through, you kind of have to maintain something. So I don't know. It's a tough thing. Like I kind of wish that I was a Waiachi, so that I could just show up with 3 robots and have all 3 different ideas down.
Yeah.
I don't have the manpower, time, money, sanity, anything to be able to make that happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's a difficult bit, and an issue we had kind of thinking what to come up with next when we came up with Spectre and Quantum, is just trying to, you look at the field and there are so many, like you say, 4-wheel drive vertical spinners because they're good. And you know how much money and time goes into these things. Doing something that's different just because it wants to be entertaining, there's only so far that can go. If you've only got a chance of getting through a couple of rounds with a non-spinner weapon, right? Sometimes you've got to think, what's the point? So you've got to be really committed to an understanding that whatever you're building really is going to be a competitive machine, and that's where the difficulty comes in.
Exactly.
Absolutely. That's kind of the crux of our problem right now.
Well, we still hope to see Hypershock back, and Huge ends up getting the win and makes the top 16 again. So this next match is a three-way between Railgun Max, Bloodsport, and Uppercut, and
can I just say that I feel bad for underestimating Uppercut?
Yeah, I thought it seemed a little
I thought this
haphazard.
thing was gonna go winless. I thought it was gonna go like 1-3, but as it turns out, it's actually pretty good.
Yeah. Personally, out of the three robots, I thought Bloodsport was the most impressive, since Railgun
Yeah.
Max was having problems, Uppercut was having problems, Bloodsport was just landing hits like crazy, and then all of a sudden, it ricochets off of Railgun Max and goes flying out of the arena.
Oh my god, that was amazing.
What the hell?
Did it? I thought Railgun Max just flipped it over and it skidded across the arena.
It's like that picture of you holding the bar like Big Smoke, and you just batted it out of the arena like a home run. It was ridiculous. So Bloodsport is out. It's down to Railgun Max and Uppercut. Railgun Max is spent, so Uppercut just goes in, beats it up, and since Railgun Max is now down to crab walking, it gets counted out, and Uppercut gets the surprise win.
I gotta say, as I said, I was quite impressed with Uppercut. Bloodsport just... What the hell happened, man? I don't know if that even counts as a good hit.
I can't even tell if it was an OOTA via horizontal or self OOTA. It looked ridiculous. Yeah, it's a shame because Bloodsport I was impressed with this season. I think that they could have maybe made the top 8, but yeah, it just I feel so bad for those guys to just going out like that. Well, what'd you think of this match?
My only comment is the following question.
Mm-hmm.
Did Uppercut actually hit anyone prior to Bloodsport ooting themselves?
I don't even remember.
Exactly.
I think they just sat back and let everything happen.
It pulled a Michael Oates.
It pulled an eruption.
Great tactics. Period.
Yeah. Grant, what'd you think?
I mean, you always know when there's going to be a three-way fight that the winner's going to be the one that doesn't do much. Unfortunately, in this case, that was this fight all over. But Railgun Max have been putting in some real good performances throughout the competition, and yeah, again, you either got to run away and hide if you want to win this kind of 3 or 4 way fights, or you've got to make sure your machine is solid enough to just keep taking the hits and carry on working. And unfortunately, Railgun Max went in all guns blazing, and yeah, they lost drive because of it. So yeah, I think they should have really kind of taken a bit more of a backseat and thought about tactics more if they were going to try and win. But yeah, exactly like you say, like eruption in Robot Wars, you sit back and you let everyone else dish out the damage, and then you come in at the end and take them out. And that, unfortunately, that's the way you win this kind of fight.
Will, were you about to say something? I kind of cut out there.
No, I think James covered it well.
All right.
Well,
Nate.
considering James is in bed,
Or Grant. Sorry.
Grant.
Yeah. Why don't you?
I'll let you off.
I'm just a jerk.
Yeah. Well, Nate, anything left to say about this match?
Nothing really, but big kudos to Uppercut for defying our expectations. What we thought was meant to be a joke robot that was likely going to go either winless or only get one fight, I gotta say, you guys impressed, and hopefully we guys can have you on. I gotta admit, not bad for a team who thought that they would save weight by not charging their batteries. Nope, I'm still not over that.
Yikes. Yep, so Uppercut wins and makes the top 16. And now we move on to Rotator versus an old friend of yours, Grant, Blacksmith. So, obviously, Blacksmith has had a very up and down season. Obviously,
It's had some of the best fights this season. I'll give
oh
it
my
that.
God! Like the matches with Scorpios and Kraken, those are match of the year contenders, and they managed to get a win over Shredderator and managed to go 2-2, and now they have to go up against Rotator, the only machine to beat Tombstone this season. But so right at the start, Rotator gets its top spinner going and manages to take out Blacksmith's little gear there, where the that fires the axe. So the hammer is dead essentially. So now Blacksmith is just down to using the wedge to take out Rotator, and the rest of the match, like, say what you will about Blacksmith, it is a solid brick. Just like taking all those hits from Rotator and just coming right back and just going in and being aggressive and trying to take it out whichever way it can. And I know some people are very they don't agree with the judge's decision, but
The one post I kept seeing all weekend at Colossal Con, because obviously I couldn't really watch it, but the one post I kept seeing on Facebook was justice for Rotator.
And here's the thing, like right after the Quantum match, everybody was going like justice for Blacksmith, or after the same thing after the Sawblaze match, justice for Blacksmith, because they thought Blacksmith had gotten screwed in those matches. But here this was redemption for Blacksmith, being able to finally get a judge's decision win. And here's why I think the reason they got the win is because, yes, Blacksmith's weapon died, but it was being aggressive and it was being in control. Rotator was landing some hits, but there was no control and almost no aggression.
Yeah, it seemed like it had trouble driving or what have you. But, even though Blacksmith never really fired its weapon and could at least push it around the arena, this was unfortunately a fight where nothing happened, but I think the result more than made up for the fight's lack of substance.
Yeah, and I was kind of on edge because Al Kindle, we've known him many years. He's with Main G and his little Blacksmith bots, and I was on edge thinking, hey, maybe he could make the top 16 if he keeps it up. But then you see the axe die and he says, oh no, it's over, isn't it? And then the judge's decision comes along. Farouk says the winner is Blacksmith, and then we get shocked Al Kindle face.
Just the look on his face, like, he was so happy. Like, you cannot script an emotion like that.
Yes.
I mean, he gets dismantled in Season 2 by Minotaur, shows up to Season 3, and nothing goes right for him. Season 4, it was an uphill battle for him, but he's finally into the top 16. I really hate to say you deserve it, because it's a really marky thing to say,
come on.
but honestly, I really do think that Al Kindle earned his place in the top 16.
Yeah. Will, what do you think? You there, Will?
It's always good to have some kind of diversity in the field. So in that regard, I wish that Blacksmith and more robots like it got in. So I'm happy to see Blacksmith in. And I think, to your point, Al was so surprised and so happy to have a win. Victor and Rotator are good friends, and I think his tactic was really good. Al never uses hammer the whole fight, but the rest of your robot kind of has to work. So Rotator unfortunately lost it, and I get it.
Yeah. I mean, I think normally if you go into a fight against a spinner, if you don't use your weapon, or you basically just wedge the whole way through, regardless of whether the spinner drives well or not. Previously, the results seem to have gone to the spinner. I think on this occasion, though, I don't think there was much sort of doubt that Blacksmith did control the fight. It had all the aggression, and regardless of its weapon not working or being used. I think that was fairly irrelevant in this one. I think people underestimate just how solid Blacksmith is and actually how good Al can drive it at times. So, yeah, I think it went well. Like you say, not the most exciting of fights, but at the same time, it's nice to see another axe get through to the next round. Because I think he could take on some of the best spinners, but he's really not had a good fight card this series. So.
Now, how do you rate Blacksmith as a robot?
I think it's deceptive. It's one of those machines you look at, and we looked at in the pits, and we thought this thing's not that solid, and it just keeps going. It just keeps standing up to things. In terms of his weapon, it's a good weapon for getting points. But I think there's a very good reason when John designed the initial beta, he went with such a long hammer arm and a very big machine, and the same you see with Shatter, that to really get the power out of it, you need a longer axe. And unfortunately, with the current design of Blacksmith, I don't think they can squeeze much more power out of it. And now there's more overhead weapons starting to make their way into the competition with the axes, the crushers, and things like Scorpios. People are starting to armor up more, and that really is going to start getting difficult for Blacksmith to cause any damage going forward. So, it's a brilliant machine, and I'm amazed they make it so reliable. But at the same time, I think to be able to progress in future seasons, I think they really need to change the design now to get a lot more power out of that hammer.
Yeah. I don't know if the question was if Nate asked the question, but after the Quantum Blacksmith match, how long did it take to finally separate you two guys?
A long time.
Oh dear.
Yeah, so we had to. I don't know if you saw. You've probably seen some of the pictures. They had to unbolt the top armor off Blacksmith, and we opened up the jaws, and then it took a long time to get to the bolts to undo the tooth. We could just about get an Allen key in and unbolt that tooth to get it out. And we tried putting it in a 20-ton press, and it just didn't budge.
Wow.
We tried all sorts of things. So in the end, the guys from Blacksmith literally angle ground around the edge, took it out because they needed their armor back. So
wow.
Yeah, it took a while.
No, it was an interesting experience, but hey, both Quantum.
It was a disappointing fight for us, that one. I mean, yeah, we got the win for it, but we've put so many holes in people over the last few seasons of King of Bots and things, and we've never had that issue. So people keep going on about changing the geometry of the teeth, but it's literally never happened before. We've tried tapered teeth, normal teeth. It's all been the same. And so, yeah, it was genuinely a complete surprise for us. And we go to these shows wanting to put on a real good show. The last thing we want to do is go put one hole, the fight stops, and that's it. That's not what we're about. So we're going to do a load of testing going forward and sort of try and come up with a way to stop that happening. But ultimately, it's physics. And if you put AR 500 on, regardless of what we do with the teeth, unfortunately, that's likely to happen.
So the moral of the story is don't armor your top with AR 500.
Exactly. Or polycarbonate.
Or polycarbonate. Yeah, so yes, Blacksmith finally gets the win and goes through to the top 16. Now, the next match is Son of Waiachi versus Copperhead, and
this was the only fight I got to watch the weekend because they actually had BattleBots on in the water park at Colossal Con East, and this was the only fight because obviously I wanted to watch it with the commentary on, but I did see the fight. We normally don't like spinner versus spinner matches that are over way too quickly, but boy, oh boy, this was a real treat.
Yeah, this was different from spinner versus spinner matches we usually see. Copperhead was going for a more slow approach to just instead of just box rushing Sal, just start the weapon up, start going slowly, and then get a hit in and try and hit the cage. And at some points, it kind of worked. Like that, they managed to get Sao into the air at one point, which was awesome. Which was very reminiscent to the last match they had with Sao when they had Poison Arrow, where they just took him out with that one hit, which was awesome. But Copperhead seemed to be having trouble running upside down. I don't know if maybe some debris got stuck on one of their wheels because it looks like
it did a really nice gyro dance.
Yeah, and then it kept going. The match continued, but it got some exchanges between the two bots, and then Son of Oyachi hits Copperhead, and we get a SOOTA via horizontal spinner, which I don't think has ever happened before.
Honestly, I was hesitant as to whether or not I should count it because it was sort of beached on the inner wall, but at the end of it, I decided, you know what, I'll count it.
Hey, when Mondo Bizarro tossed Captain Doom onto the wall, I count that as an OOTA too. So, and that right there is our John Reed Good Hit of the Night award. Yeah, I actually had mine for Minotaur versus Cobalt, but
we'll get to that.
Oh my lord. But this was an interesting match, and of course, this match also gave us our Farouk moment of the night.
Oh yes,
when somebody from the Copperhead team pulled out the Santino Morales snake and just scares Farouk. Oh, it was great. This was a great match, and well, what'd you think?
Yeah, I totally agree. Great match. Copperhead, I really like. It's kind of the distilled version of Poison Arrow, and obviously the last time they fought, it went a completely different way. I like Copperhead a lot, but I think they kind of showed, and I think also Endgame showed this season the limitations of how rigidly you can build something, how rigidly you can build the chassis and mount things inside. If they were having issues. Copperhead was having issues where ICs, little components on the circuit boards in the speed controllers were coming off in hits because they were rigidly mounted to the frame and there was no shock mounting at all. So
yeah, I think that's where people need to start looking at what HAL does with Duck. His machines are just so reliable in that respect.
So annoying.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing, like Son of Oyachi, this spot, they are former champions, and I'm really surprised at how, number one, when they started out in season 2 of the reboot, they had to go through a pre-match qualifier, and now they're in the bottom 8. I figured they'd be higher up on the rankings, considering they've beaten Huge. They beat Kraken. Who was the third bot they beat? Do you remember? Yeah. No. I know they lost to Whiplash, but yeah, it's kind of strange. But I think Sao. This match it could have gone either way. I think because but what it really came down to was Son of Oyachi was just much more reliable, and Copperhead just struggled at some points, and Sao just hit a I just did a movement, golf club movement, but a big long hit straight over the wall. So yeah, that was a good match. Nate, anything left to say?
Nope. Other than looks like Son of Waiachi, I think could be dark. Like it. How great would it be that we would get a Waiachi versus Waiachi fight in the top 16 bracket?
Oh, that'd be money.
Oh
yes. Yeah. I'd love to see that. So Sao goes through to the top 16, and now we get. This is my new match of the year contender: Cobalt versus Minotaur.
what a main event this was.
Oh my goodness. Like,
it was a back and forth fight between two excellent machines that really could have gone either way. Honestly, I couldn't even though I was rooting for Cobalt, I can't get mad that it was Minotaur who won it. And that's simply because you look at what Minotaur has been through this season. They got up to a slow start going 0-2, runners-up in the Desperado tournament. They won their next 2 fights, and now they finally punched their ticket to the top 16.
It's a real Cinderella story, as you would say.
I wouldn't say Cinderella story, but a turnaround story, a bounce-back story.
Yeah.
Like the St. Louis Blues this year.
Exactly. Yeah, Cobalt, I was hoping Cobalt would make the top 16 because they're a machine that are capable of beating something like Bite Force or Tombstone, I think. Because they have the wedge and the disc combo to just get underneath them and throw them around. But apparently the little wedge at the front is a little rinky-dink. And which leads us to the first big moment of the match when the 2 bots collide at the beginning. Minotaur hits Cobalt. The wedge goes flying into the ceiling and obliterates one of the lights.
Oh, great!
I'm sure the BattleBots bingo guys had a blast with this one. There's another broken light for you, and then the match keeps going. Cobalt's on the run because the disc is too high into the air. Minotaur is going in, getting hits in. Minotaur delivers this enormous hit. Cobalt went at least about as high as Duck did in that match against Cobalt. It was insanity. And then Cobalt starts coming back, manages to wedge under Minotaur, and if you look closely, you can actually see one of Minotaur's wedges get ripped off. And yeah, but Minotaur, Danny Freitas, he is a leader of men. He does not give up. So even when Minotaur is on the ropes, he's able to push Cobalt back, and I'm impressed how he's able to Minotaur has just got real pushing power.
Excellent tactics using the forks to pin Cobalt up against the wall. God, can you imagine if we still used the pinning move in pinning rules like they used in the early 90s?
Nate Franklin, he has a gimmick now where he'll pin an opponent to the wall, count to 9, and then let go. Yeah, but
that 10 pins. Okay, here goes. That 9 pin spot is killing the business.
Yeah. What was it that Daniel Bryan said? I got it till 5 or something like that. Yeah. This was a great main event, and up until now, my match of the year contender was Sawblaze versus Blacksmith. Now this is my match of the year contender. Just 2 hosses going at it, and it was awesome. Will, what do you think of this main event?
Yeah, I don't know what the deal is with Cobalt's little wedge, but it keeps flying off into oblivion.
Yeah.
I was getting nervous that they were going to be told that they couldn't have it because it keeps getting hit off.
How much does that wedge weigh? Any idea?
Oh, probably 7-10 pounds, something like that.
Yeah. So it's the equivalent of throwing a dumbbell up into the ceiling. Ouch.
Very quickly.
Grant, what'd you think of this match?
Cobalt have exactly the same issue that we had with Lockjaw with their wedge. They basically have a fairly short wedge at the front, and anyone that's got the chisels at the side or the long forks, they just get straight under the side of you, lift you up, and you lose that wedge. And that's exactly how we lost against Lockjaw as well. So it's something that we need to consider as well as Cobalt. But I think Cobalt basically was designed coming into this competition to take on the horizontal spinners like Tombstone and Valkyrie and Shredderator, and unfortunately didn't get.
Yeah, Dave Mold said in his interview with Sam Elliott that the reason why they brought in that skull-shaped disc was specifically so that they could fight Tombstone.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. And I think it would have. I think Cobalt's got probably the best chances anyone of beating those kind of machines. But when it comes to out-and-out driving of other vertical spinners, I think they're on the back foot to some degree because their disc is so far back to get that really good kind of wedge on the front. So yeah, I think they're always going to be on the back foot against Minotaur in this fight. But it shows what over and over again. Just if you can make your machine reliable, you can just keep on going. But the amount it got thrown around and just carried on working was pretty incredible.
And big respect to Dave Moulds and Sam Smith. They've won. They're the second team to win 2 different televised robot combat shows. They won Robot Wars and This Is Fighting Robots. Panzer obviously has won Robotica and Robot Wars, and these guys, they've got pedigree. And
yeah,
I would have loved to see them maybe get the Triple Crown and win BattleBots someday. But yeah,
I think they've certainly got the capability of doing it. I'm not quite convinced with Cobalt because it's a very good machine, but like I say, I think it's too geared up for the horizontal spinners in its current layout. But I think a few small tweaks and they certainly could go the distance.
Yeah,
it's certainly one of the most savage vertical spinners in terms of power and engagement on the disc.
Absolutely, it's I'd love to see Cobalt in a new season if they come back with it.
Yeah, definitely.
Just
not fighting us.
Or taking pieces out of the house robots like he did. I've seen he went after Shunt a few times in Series 10.
Yes, yeah.
It was
we tried.
Well, yeah, but yeah, that covers episode 14 of BattleBots 2019, and on a scale of 1 to 10, I can't give it any less than 10. I'm
gonna give it a perfect 10 too. It was worthy of this moment.
Yeah. How about you, Will?
I'm giving it a 9. I'll be the Russian.
Yeah. Better luck next time. And Grant, what about how would you rate it on a scale of 1 to 10?
I think this is probably the best, well, certainly the best episode so far. So
yeah, I'd say it's well up there. And with all these bots that are going into the top 16, you've got a hell of a card going into these last couple episodes. I just can't wait to see who's going to be fighting each other and what these matches are going to be like. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how it comes out.
Yes.
There are some really good ones coming up.
Yeah.
Ooh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Can't wait. Yeah, so that covers the fight, the BattleBots review portion of the episode. In other robot combat news, I just came back from the Raymore and Flanagan event that Jeremy Campbell of the Pennsylvania Bot Blast event held at the Raymore and Flanagan in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania.
You were close. It's Barry.
Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. And I ended up taking third in that, continuing the 2019 tradition of taking third in every event I've been to. And oh boy. And I did manage to break a robot in half, which I'm happy with. But yeah, I like to refer to it as Raymore and Flanagan Day Camp, since it took place in a Raymore and Flanagan. Jeremy, I believe, is working there, and the pits was a little room in the back. There were only 12 bots for it, but because we couldn't have like a big event, but it was a nice space. And then you could go out, and Jeremy has an arena set up, and everyone in the arena was surrounded by couches, so you can sit on the couch and watch the matches.
Hey, see if the PA Bot Blast people would ask. Okay. See if the PA Bot Blast people would like to hold an event at Colossal Con East, because there's going to be a big expansion coming to the Kalahari.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Yeah, because like the Ohio events are fun, but I don't feel like driving out there. But yeah, going to I think Jeremy might he's taking a break now since the Bot Blast events take a lot out of you. You got to build the arena, you got to book everything. It's wild, but it's a fun event. Big thank you to Jeremy and his family. And what's the story with you, Nate?
Colossal Con East was fun. I had them reschedule my panels. Unfortunately, though, I had a combined attendance of less than 10, likely due to the fact that they weren't on the printed schedule. Also, they put my anime bubble panel in a room that did not have support for VGA cables.
That sucks.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Did you still have fun?
I did have fun. I'll probably go back next year, but if I don't have that good of an experience, then I probably will be taking CCE off my planned events list.
Alrighty. How about you, Will? Any robot events coming up for you?
Well, let's see. There's Orlando Maker Faire coming up in November. I'll be a big one. We're going to be there with something, whether it's Hypershock or a hodgepodge bastardized version of Hypershock or whatever. But there's going to be a lot of teams there. I think there's 28 heavyweights signed up right now.
Nice.
No big, scary kinetic energy weapons, but lots of saws and hammers and pushy things, and it'll be fun.
And how about you, Grant? Robot Wars, unfortunately, is still canceled, but is anything going on with the Robo Challenge team for the next coming weeks?
Yeah, to be honest, we're pretty burnt out doing BattleBots and then King of Bots back to back. It's kind of nice to not be building something or worrying about an event, but Spectre and part of Quantum, we've stripped all of Quantum out at the moment to do some testing with motors and things. Is currently on display for an event that Mark Forged are running in the UK actually at the moment.
Oh, nice.
Showing off sort of all the kind of things you can do with generative design and 3D printing. So that's quite cool. So yeah, so as soon as we get those back, we're just going to get straight on to testing all the hydraulics, testing the motors, and see where we can kind of start making improvements for next time. But yeah, we just kind of really trying to wait and hold off and hear what the next kind of rule changes might be, if there are any, for another season of BattleBots. We really want to start kind of looking at doing something different. We've kind of run this style of machine now for obviously 2 King of Bots seasons and a BattleBot season, and we're not really sure where to go with it now. We think with the generative design, we've kind of got to a fairly close to the level we can get. So we may start looking, see if they can start introducing some shuffler bonuses. If they do, we'll probably start trying to look down that avenue and see if we can start utilising the weight to really improve things. So yeah, we'll see. It all comes down to what they're doing with the arena floor, what they're doing with rules. But yeah, we really want to kind of try and push some more boundaries and kind of show some other areas where people have tried but not really succeeded, and see if we can kind of prove that they're worth doing. So that's the idea.
Now, the house robots, are they still doing okay in their retirement?
Yes, yeah, they're still alive. So, yeah, as always, they're as soon as they get called to fight, they'll be ready.
That's good. You hear that, Hexbug Matilda? They're still in good hands.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm kind of sad that they did a Hexbug Matilda, but they didn't do one for the other ones.
Yeah, I think it was all timing of the show being taken off air. Obviously, we're not directly involved in making decisions for exactly what gets produced and what doesn't and all the rest, but it kind of makes sense that they brought Matilda out first with the other arena kits and things, but with it being taken off air, is it really the best sort of decision to start basically bringing out
all the other competitors and everything else when there's no future series. So yeah, I think they're probably, my opinion is that they're probably all on hold until something comes back, and then they would start bringing more and more of those out. But they're quite complex getting all the weaponry into the house robots, especially if you've got like shunt and kill a lot and things, and dead metal. You've got like 3 separate moving things. So I think Matilda was a good one to start with, and yeah, fingers crossed, some point in the future we can get some more series, and we'll see all 4.
Yeah, definitely would look forward to that.
Yeah, because I think we're at the moment, I think we're the only team that have all 3 TV shows. We have a toy of sorts out for. So we've got obviously the Matilda toy, who's a robot that we've built. We've got Beta, and we've also got various Spectre toys and merchandise out over in China. So it's quite cool. But we really want to try and get Quantum to the level where we can get some toys out on shelves. That's one of the coolest things, creating something for a TV show. It's not just the competition, but being able to walk into a store and seeing your creation on show there. That's cool.
Hey, if I ever see a Quantum appear in a Target, I'll let you know. So with that said, that concludes episode 14 of the BattleBots review, and the end of the Hardcore podcast for tonight. Will, it was good having you back.
Always a pleasure.
Brant, it's great being able to talk to you. We're big Robot Wars fans, and we love the house bots, and Quantum's awesome, and Spectre's awesome, and it's great to have you on.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the invite.
Hey, and Nate, thank you for inviting our guests.
Hey, no problem.
So next episode is the beginning of the championship, so we can't wait to see what happens. And if Will says there's going to be good matches, I'm sure there's going to be some real good matches. So until next time, I'm the Hardcore Kid.
I'm Otaku Nate.
I guess I'm Will.
I'll see you later.
Peace out, and it's robot fighting time.
Spin it, let's begin it. Bear and grin it when you're in it. You can win it in a minute when you spin it, spin it, spin it.
Boop.